Well, it's week 7 of the LCS with coverage brought to you by Alienware. We're temporarily out in front of the LCS studio again instead of the LCS Dome because something went wonky on my capture software. Anyway, I am joined right now by Zven from Cloud9 to talk about their return to dominance. I mean, you guys won last week, but it feels like that game was pretty stompy and maybe a bit of a stat patter, I guess, is a way to put it. So what was your impression of that game as you went into it and played it through?
I mean, I think that IMT didn't have the best draft today. Felt like they gave us an insane amount of not only winning lanes, but also Morgana value was crazy in this game. They picked like full CC. So if people have Cleanse or Mercs or Morgana Black Shield, then they can just go crazy. Like I could at the end of the game. So I felt like not only do we win bot lane matchup, we have to win top lane. Mid is like even, right? We have a strong jungle in the early game with Volibear. We have a lot of dive pressure on both sides with Volibear plus Galio. It felt like we got what we want as a team. You know, we play much better with like lane pressure and sides, and then having Drake control, which we did because we have a much stronger bot 3-3. So it felt like we just got what we wanted, and the game went the usual C9 style of take dragon, take the next dragon. Suddenly we have Soul at 20 minutes condition, and they have to go fight us somewhere to get control of the game, and then they lose the fight. And we got Barons of Soul this game, but in different game we get Soul at 20 minutes, and then the game ends like same way it ended. So felt like a good game. We've been having some rough games recently, so having a stomp like this is nice to show people and ourselves that we're still, we're still good. We're still good.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for most teams, dropping 2 in a row would not be considered like that big of a deal. I mean, obviously not ideal, but for you guys, it was like a Cloud9 slump. Like you guys were slumping. And so do you think that you're kind of out of that now?
I think we had a small slump where we picked champions. We didn't really know how to pilot as well as a team. We picked champs that aren't as good as fighting all the time, and then we didn't have much lane pressure as we usually do, and then it just kind of fell apart. But I think last week of scrims has been really, really good. So I feel like we're out of a slump already, and it was mostly a draft issue, I think, or rather an issue that we drafted things we couldn't play as well. So I think we're over it now, and the losses kind of hurt because it put us in not sole position in first place. We were sharing it with Team Liquid until they lost to FlyQuest yesterday, which kind of like, I don't like when I'm sharing first place with someone else. We've been having first place the whole year,
Yes.
actually.
Well, and so, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you was like, there was going to be this epic battle for first place tomorrow, and now it's like, okay, well, that's already done, I guess, because TL already, they just randomly lost this giant, in a very dramatic way to FlyQuest. So, I mean, did you get a chance to watch that match, and what was your impression of what went wrong there for them?
Yeah, we finished scripts at 5, so we were all on the couch watching TL versus Fly and the other game. I can't remember what it was. IMT versus someone. Of course, we're cheering for whoever plays against Team Liquid. We hope they will lose, right? So I think TL is starting to lose games they should lose. I think they got away with a lot of wins they shouldn't have gotten away with. I mentioned this earlier, I think 2 weeks ago on broadcast. I said that TL having the record they have is pretty lucky because they should have lost to IMT last time they played against them. They should have lost. They should have lost to FlyQuest as well. They won games where like they rely heavily on opponents destroying the game. I've been there myself. I know that, but you can't always rely on that happening to you, and they have relied on it too much. I also think that they rely heavily on Coach J and Jensen making every play. Jensen stomps lane, and they went through that, or Coach J makes plays through like Bard ults or roaming or something like that. And if one of those things don't happen, it seems like TL has no players. But we will see tomorrow when we play against them if they can carry it through other people than Coach J or Jensen.
Well, and so what's interesting to me is that you mentioned that you guys were watching the game and that you were rooting for FlyQuest because you wanted TL to lose. There's no part of you that wanted to be the team to take back first place by just defeating them?
I guess so. That's fair enough to say, but like this match doesn't mean less to me just because TL lost. So I still want to put them in the ground and show them that I was right when I said that, and I still want to show them and everyone else that we are the best team in this region by far. So yeah, whatever.
Whatever. Well, I'm kind of curious because one of the things I've mentioned in a couple other interviews is like it's difficult to kind of get a gauge on who the best teams are. I think when you mentioned, because you said that whole thing about you said in an interview on broadcast that TL maybe didn't deserve the place that they were at, or at least they got kind of lucky in their wins. You also said that you thought TSM was the second best team in the league. Do you
Yeah.
still feel that way, especially since they've looked a little bit rockier lately?
Well, I don't scrim TSM anymore. We don't have scrims with TSM and FlyQuest ever again. So I can't tell anymore. But at the time I said that we were scrimming TSM early in the split, and I thought they were looking pretty good. Then they had 2 really bad weeks. Lost to us, lost to IMT, FlyQuest as well. They got stomped kind of, and I thought like, oh, they're falling apart again. But I still think TSM has good players, and they're looking better and better. But I don't know. I think right now it looks like it's back to the old C9 is here, and then there's like a soup of teams here, and the soup looks like EG is getting better. TSM is, I don't know, 1 week really good, 1 week really bad.
Right.
Fly is getting better slowly, so TL, Fly, EG, and TSM looks like the soup right now, and then it's us. And hopefully we can show tomorrow that we are the best team, and we're not part of the soup or whatever people call it nowadays. So
Why are you guys not scrimming FlyQuest or TSM?
we just aren't. I don't know why. They just tell us they don't want to scrim us anymore.
Oh, really? The way you position it made it sound as though this was like a Cloud9 decision. I did not realize.
No. I mean,
Did this
I don't know
happen
if
around the same time, or is it just coincidental? Like both these teams are like, hey, we're done with scrims with you guys.
I think it's a coincidence, but I don't even know if it was our decision. I don't think it is. But I was told that we won't scrim TSM and Fly anymore, and I was like, oh, that sucks because Fly is a really good scrim partner, and TSM is a fine one too. So we have had worse scrims the last couple of weeks than we had before because of this. We obviously played TL, so they didn't want to scrim us. We played EG last week as well, who's also like a mid-top tier team. So scrims have been worse for us recently.
Do you think that contributed at all to? I know you said that a lot of the reasons for the losses were the champion picks, but do you think the lower level scrims was a contributing factor at all in your losses?
Maybe a little bit, but not the reason, but like a small kind of factor. Because I think when you scrim low tier teams, you win games with champs that aren't that good, and you think they're good because you're winning a game, right?
Right.
But I don't think it's the reason, but it might be a little bit of a factor. But yeah, like it used to be the way that most teams didn't want to scrim us on Fridays because it was demoralizing.
Yeah.
And now some teams just don't want to scrim us at all anymore, which is kind of weird. But I don't even know why, or if it's our reason, like our decision or theirs. So it's just what it is, right? But yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about TSM anymore or FlyQuest. We don't scrim them anymore, and probably won't be. But TSM looked really, really bad some games, and then they looked pretty good today against Dignitas. Although it was Dignitas who have been looking really, really bad last couple of games. They just actually AFK the game and lose. Bad draft, do nothing the whole game, give 4 dragons, give Baron, lose. That's like the recipe right now against GGS and TSM. So I guess Dig is like discount wins at this point, but
yeah.
Regardless, they look pretty good today, TSM. So and Fly's been doing better as well. So I think they're like rising to the second place fight.
Do you think that you guys scrimming against these other teams will help make them better, or do you think it's like just too stompy in those games, like they can't learn anything?
I think if you're too bad, where you're at the point where you just lose lanes so hard that you can't even like play the game, you don't get to mid game, you just lose every lane, every game, then sure, scrim someone else to actually learn that first, right? But I think if you're a middle top tier team, you should always scrim the best team in the league, just for like, yeah, they're the best team, right? So they're the best practice. But for some teams, like for example IMT, I had this meme where I said we always speedrun IMT in scrims, and it's true. They will lose every lane, lose the game in 20 minutes, and then just you can't really say like, okay guys, we lost every lane in this game, we got stomped everywhere, we got dove everywhere, we can't even, have a real team fight because we're all down 5 goal 10 minutes every game. So we can't learn from this. We are just worse than them mechanically or individually, right? That's fair enough. But if you're a military team, you should scrim the best team in the league. But like I said, I don't know if it's our decision or theirs, so I can't say like anything about this.
You're saying on the FlyQuest and TSM side, you don't know if it was your decision or theirs.
Yeah, I actually don't know, but I think it's theirs. Which I disagree with if it's theirs, but maybe there's some other reason behind it. But whatever, we don't scrim them, which kind of sucks for both, I think.
Well, and so that's what the other thing I was going to ask you is like, when stuff like this gets out there, I think the community has really strong reactions, one way or the other, like, oh, this is really smart or this is really bad for the league. I'm kind of curious because there are very few people other than maybe like the players and the coaches who have any idea what this actually means for the scene. So from your perspective, like, is this bad for NA? Is it good because maybe TSM and FlyQuest can level up on their own and like develop some other meta? I'm just kind of curious if you what you think the impacts of this type of thing are on the league.
I don't think it's terrible because we can still scrim Team Liquid or EG, for example. So we won't have like bad scrims. We have to scrim those teams more. But if it was like let's say it was G2 and Fnatic, right? Back when they were the two only teams that really mattered in the EU.
Right.
And Fnatic said, fuck G2, we won't scrim you guys anymore. That would make G2 worse over time, right? But since NA has one really good team and a soup, it doesn't matter as long as we scrim someone from the soup every single day, right?
Sure.
So it's not a big loss for us. And maybe those teams just think that, well, fuck C9, they play so many weird champions in weird roles. So, we don't want to play against C9 because they play troll champions or weird champions, and our opponents this week in LCS won't play that, so it's bad practice. That's fair enough. Maybe that's the reason they don't want to scrim us, right?
Sure.
Because we play different stuff, or we're just annoying or something. Who knows? Maybe it's like we don't want you guys to get practice because we won't beat you. Who knows? Like, I think it's fair enough. But like I said, we have a soup, so we can just choose one team from the soup every single week, so it's fine, right? Whereas,
I mean, you say that, but then you also say Immortals is just getting speedrun, right? So
yeah, so like we don't want to scrim those teams every single day. So we want to have TL booked now every single day, or like once we play TL, I'm sure we'll book them every game, every day possible, and we'll book EG and whoever's left at that point.
Yeah. Do you think fans should expect EG and TL to get a lot better way faster because they're getting, theoretically top tier scrim practice or like the best partner they can get?
I don't know if it works that way because we scrim TL quite a lot before, and we always stomp TL on scrims.
Yeah.
Which gives me a lot of confidence, but scrims results especially aren't always the best indicator of LCS performance. So,
right. I mean, are there teams outside of TSM and FlyQuest that you guys don't stomp? Because you're like, we stomp TL, we stomp Immortals, like that is, it becomes difficult then to understand if you guys are getting any good practice or if they're getting good practice because one-sided scrims are probably not great, right?
We lose some games every week to teams. We lost 2 games to EG this week in one scrim set, which is 2 games out of 5, right? So we lose some games sometimes, but most of the time, our scrim playstyle is really heavy early game and aggression, which is also on stage, and that works really well in scrims, whereas teams like TL, who are a lot slower, or IMT, who are a lot slower, have the worst playstyle for scrims, because in scrims, even if you're a late game team, you still fight, because it's a scrim.
Yeah.
So having a late game playstyle like TL is bad for scrims, but for C9, it's a buff, right? So, yeah.
Do you think
TL will always lose all scrims to us, because we play like the good scrim style as a stage style as well, and they play the late game style in scrims, which is just bad. So
do you think that's why they lost to FlyQuest yesterday?
I think TL lost to FlyQuest because TL relies too much on Jensen to carry the game, and it seemed like when you ban Jensen's best champions like Asir, and you put him in a matchup like a Zoe or Ana, he can't really one-man with Zoe, it felt like. And Broxah and Impact both looked really bad that game. Broxah was actually useless. Impact and Broxah misplayed that top gank on solo, where it ends up being Broxah trying to gank it from behind, and then solo kills Impact only one while he's getting ganked, and it made the game like really hard for Team Liquid. They had a Doom top side, mid was equal, and bot, even though Tactical got 2 kills, he didn't really do anything the whole game and got hit by a lot of shockwaves as Ezreal. So I don't know. It felt like TL didn't have Jensen as a reliable carry in that game because Zoe just can't carry versus those champions. There's too much tank, too much shielding from Oriana. I don't know. Just felt like they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And the last team fights didn't flash Oriana shockwaves from Tactical, and just Broxah looked really lost on his Volibear. I think Broxah's been having low impact in the last couple of games they played. He seems not confident on Volibear. He hopped in. There was one team fight at the end of the game that stuck in my mind where Impact is a flank off. So despite being useless, he got a good flank on Power Evil. And Broxah ults into the wall as Volibear, flash out wall, does one attack and dies. And I was like, Jesus Christ, that was really, really bad, right? So yeah, I think if TL can't have Jensen carry the whole game, it looks hard for them often. And they rely heavily on champions like Lee Sin and Aphelios. And if they don't have those champions, it seems like they only have one player sometimes.
Yeah. We had a big discussion this week on Hotline League about Broxah, and there's kind of a question on is Broxah just not meshing well with TL, or is Broxah just not as good as people believed him to be? I'm kind of curious, do you think like the issues that Brox is having are more stylistic, or is it literally just like a weird synergy thing with TL?
I think it's both. I think TL's playstyle right now is tank, Jensen 1v9 champ like Asir or
Right.
Orianna, and then Aphelios plus whatever Koji wants, right? And when they don't have a tank top, they don't have it's just on a carry 1v9 champ like Asir or Syndra Orianna kind of champ and Aphelios, it feels like they fall apart. Broxah is definitely better in the Elise, Lee Sin kind of meta that he used to be really good at in Fnatic. So I'm sure that Set and Volibear aren't his best champions. So he's definitely looks worse than he did back then. But I do think that TL seems to be like a team that wants to farm and play, what do you call it, Origin style of taking
Yeah.
only good fights, don't fight when you have to, just farm, play through Jensen. And that doesn't seem like Broxah's strength. It seems more like he's a guy that wants to sin, right? Play sin, Elise, gank lanes, look for plays all the time, look for dives, and TL is not a Broxah kind of team. They're the opposite, right? They have the same playstyle they had the last 2 years of a lot of farming, slow gameplay, long game time, rely on your AD carry and your millionaire to carry the game, play tanks everywhere possible, and that doesn't seem to fit Broxah at all. So I do think there's a mix of both. Meta is bad for Broxah, his team doesn't fit him very well, and I don't think he's performing too well either on champs like Graves, Volibear, Set, right? Compared to his Lee Sin and his Elise kind of days. So yeah.
I do love that you've been in NA for 3 years, but all your analogies are still LEC teams. You're like, if Fnatic and G2 stop playing each other, or like, oh, this is kind of like Origin style or whatever. It's it's very funny just to see everything harkens back to Europe for you still.
I've been here longer than I've been in an EU, which is a fun fact.
Oh, really? Yeah, I would. It's funny because it feels like it's been way shorter than Europe, or you had such a long standing there, so it's kind of funny.
I played 5 splits in LEC, 5 finals, and now this is my 6th split in NA. Yeah. So now I've been here longer than I've been in the EU.
That's wild.
Weird. Yeah.
All right. Anything that you want to say to any of the fans out there?
Yeah, I mean, like always, I know we had 2 bad weeks with 2 losses in 2 weeks. Oof. But I don't think we should get too crazy. I think we're still really good. Our scrims are going really well. Not just like win-lose, but we're doing well in scrims. And I just want to say thank you to fans for cheering for us throughout the whole split. And I know you guys have high expectations, but doing our best to make sure we can go to Worlds and hopefully win on a split for you guys. So thank you for cheering, and don't lose faith just because we lose 1 game or 2 games. And hopefully Sunday versus TL will be a banger. So yeah. Thank you to everyone.
Well, thank you so much for the interview. All super insightful stuff. I really appreciate how candid you are. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things esports right here on my YouTube channel. Hey folks, I have a big request from you. It's actually the easiest request ever, but it would mean a lot to me. Can you hit the subscribe button? I'm trying to see how many people I can get to subscribe just directly from these videos by asking them the challenge. And it would actually mean a lot for me because, I don't know, just trying to feel good about seeing the numbers go up. 2020 is it's a tough year. And so the one thing that gives me the dopamine hits at eWar is just seeing my subscriber numbers go up. So if you could subscribe, that would be great. Also, please check out alienware.com/Travis. There's a link in the video description below. You can use Travis 10 off Q2 to save some good cash on Alienware products like the computer that's behind me, or even their newer models. This one's a little bit old. You can still buy this. It's great, but they also have the latest and greatest up on the Alienware site. You can check it out. Again, alienware.com/Travis. Thanks so much to them for their support. And I got to say, like, I know I'm kind of overexposed right now, but I'm liking this look for me. I think this is the new look.